Hi guys, nice to see you again. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my story, because in yarning, or storytelling if you like, there's much to be learned, and in sharing my story with you, I'm trusting that I will bring you some inspiration and perhaps a little bit of insight into aspects of your life. And maybe you are struggling through grief at the moment, or whatever your difficulties, it really doesn't matter. So before I start, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button below, like this video and share it after you've watched it, and leave a comment or two if you'd like. But let's begin. So what I'm going to talk about today with you is my Zandré. Like I told you before, he was my best friend on this earth, and what an incredible soul. He was just the peacemaker and the most amazing young man you could have ever wished to have met. So Zandré decided to join me on a trip to Namibia, as he wanted to see where I grew up. And I'll never forget, on the flight over there, he took my hand into his big artist's hand and told me how much he appreciated and loved me, and how grateful he was for the fact that I was his mom. You know, there are so many things that we only realize in hindsight, and come to think of it, I believe that his soul knew he was going to leave me, or he was going to leave this earth. And of course, prior to or in that moment, I didn't know. But anyway, moving on, Zandré and I arrived in Windhoek, the capital of Namibia, and we met up with some friends, and he decided he's going to go for lunch and a swim at the Hilton Hotel, while I was seeing clients there. So he had a whale of a time, enjoyed himself, and then when he got back to the guest house where we lived at the time, we started getting ready to go out that evening. So he was lying on my bed helping me choose what to wear, as he usually did. And then the next moment he got up and came back into the room after a while, and he placed a little newspaper clipping on my pillow. And when I wanted to open it, he said, "No, please don't. You can open that when we get back home tonight." So I agreed, and we went out. We went to a local club. And if you guys are expecting blood and gore because Zandré was murdered at age 19, then you may as well stop watching the video now, because even his murder was, in a sense, lacking blood and gore. But it was no less devastating and impactful on my life. So we arrived at this club in Windhoek in high spirits. I remember us singing in the car, "We are the awesome foursome," because it was him, myself, a friend from Canada, and my friend Theo, who was driving to the club. And we were just ready to have a great time. And once in the club, I said to him, "Be careful, don't take alcohol that's opened," and gave him all the do's and don'ts, to thinking I will keep him safe. And Zandré was 6'3", so obviously he stood out. And at that time in Windhoek, because there's such a huge German population, the majority of people are blonde with blue eyes. And of course, the two of us had dark hair, and he had green eyes like me. So he definitely stood out. I actually laughed because at one stage he had about 3 girls walking after him with a drink in hand and saying, I bought you a drink, I bought you a drink. He started taking videos of the evening and sending it to Brendan, who was at the trance party, saying, look where mom has me, and bragging about all the female attention he was getting. Plus, earlier the evening, there had been a lingerie party, and these little girls were walking around in very little clothing. And he, of course, a 19-year-old guy, was in heaven. Anyway, so we each had a drink, and then I started feeling very peculiar. So Zandré came up to me and said, Mom, please share brandy special with me. Now, I don't drink brandy, but because he wanted it and he said he was thirsty, I said to him, okay, I'll kill the bull, so I'll share this one brandy special with you. I usually drink red wine or whiskey and water. Anyway, so he went and bought the brandy special, and it was after I drank about 3 sips of that drink that I started feeling very, very unwell. And when he came to the table, I said to him, I think I'm rather going to go back to the guest house because I was not feeling good at all. And this was around 1:30 in the morning. So by that stage, we had only had about 2 drinks each. So I arranged with my best friend in Namibia that she would take me home, and my friend Theo was going to remain at the club with Zandré to ensure that he would be safe. So Zandré walked me out to Diana's car, hugged me and told me he loves me, and and she took me back to the guest house. When I got there, I was literally feeling as though I'd been hit by a bus. So I passed out, immediately fell asleep, and it felt like I'd only slept for about 2 minutes when I was woken by Diana, and she said to me, you need to come, Zandré fell. So in a daze, I was like, what do you mean he fell? And she said, no, you just need to come. So we were rushing back to the club, and upon arrival there were people at the entrance who showed me to the bathroom, and they said he's in there. So, but on the way to the club, I phoned Theo, and his words were the exact same. He just said, Mel, you need to come because Zandré fell and he hit his head. So, of course, I thought he was badly injured and got to the club, walked into the bathroom then where I was directed to, and there was my boy lying on the bathroom floor. So I immediately crouched down beside him and I said, Zandré, wake up, because I thought he was playing a prank. That was so Zandré. He would do such a thing. And he didn't stir. So I patted his cheeks like this and I said, Zandré, come on, wake up now. And it just slowly dawned on me that he wasn't moving. And if I have to try and describe the feeling in that very moment to you, it's almost impossible, because it was certainly one of the most devastating emotions I ever felt. So I realized, oh my God, he's dead. He's really, really dead. And then the next thought that came to me was, but hang on, I'm a medium, so I can still talk to him. So the next thing I did was I held his hands and then I heard this horrible sound coming from somewhere. And if I have to try and explain to you how everything took place, it isn't in perfect order, so please excuse me. It was, what I do recall is that I tried to wake him, and then I heard this terrible sound. Only moments later, realizing it was me, I was crying and screaming as it dawned on me that he's actually dead. And then a weird feeling settled over me as I then softly kissed his forehead and cheeks. And the only visible damage to him was that he had a cut over here, and I could see that his nose was broken. And only afterwards was I told that he had walked back to the table, faltered, and then dropped dead forward. So by the time he hit the ground, he was already dead. And some youngsters tried to revive him. They were paramedics and couldn't, of course, because only later did we find out what the actual cause of his death was. But one thing I can say to you is the Uvambo, that's a tribe in Namibia, who was from the morgue that came to fetch him, was the most incredible man. And in their tribe, mothers are honored immensely. And this guy left me with Zandré for about 2 hours as I washed his hands, I washed his face, I took the armbands off his wrists, and I just sat there softly sobbing next to him. And I must tell you that when he didn't come to me after I begged him to just make contact with me, since I'm a medium, I felt the worst rejection I'd ever felt in my life. And people think that when someone dies, it's the death that's so devastating. That's not true. I don't believe, because you know what? What followed was actually a lot more devastating than that specific moment. Sure, that specific moment was painful, and it felt like my heart was ripped from my chest, but it was certainly not the worst of the entire occurrence. Because following his death, I had to face Brendan. I had to try and keep my life together for Brendan and for Kian. So don't ever think that death is only a singular occurrence. Whether it's your child that dies, whether it's your parent that dies, or a family member or close friend, be gentle with those people who suffer that incident, because they're hurting, and they're hurting badly. So give them time, give them space, and don't try and fix it, because very often people have a tendency to say the silliest things, meaning well, but I've so often said it's the most well-meaning people that actually does the most damage. So more often than not, the best thing for you to do is just be there. And when someone suffering from grief or trauma needs to talk, they know that you're available. And that's all that you need to do, really. So Zandré was suffering from a problem with a pulmonary vein in his heart, and we had no idea of that. It was only revealed to me later that apparently it either shows up very early in childhood or around the age of 18, 19, which was the case with Zandré. So only in the autopsy did the coroner discover this heart defect in him. And they also established that Zandré was in fact spiked in that club. And I actually believe we were both spiked because the effects that that drink had on me was so severe that, and that of course I only realized much later as well, because believe me, the two of us, we were known as the tequila king and queen, because we could drink so many tequila shots together. And I had the ability to actually drink quite a few drinks with him and with friends. So 3 drinks, well, I didn't even finish that drink. I literally only had those 3 sips and that was it. But that's why they opened the murder case, because it was very suspicious that on instruction they went to view the cameras of the club, and there were 5 cameras in total, and the cameras that pointed to the table where we sat, or the booth, those cameras were switched off shortly before 2 o'clock in the morning, and yet the other cameras in the club all continued until about 4. So the police questioned that, and Zandré's murder case has still not been resolved. We were waiting for special police reports to come back, forensics. So, and that still hasn't happened, even after 5 years. So, you know, I've come to the conclusion that instead of asking why and how, I became determined to have that club closed down. Not for me, but to save other youngsters from suffering the same fate. Because in the weeks prior to Zandré's death and the weeks following his death, there were numerous youngsters who were apparently also drugged, or whose drinks were drugged. And in fact, a couple actually died in that club the week after Zandré died. So there were so many suspicious circumstances, and so the police, as a result, opened a murder case in Zandré, where Zandré was concerned. And then I did manage to get the club closed down. The owner actually fled the country, and I don't, in fact, care where he went. Plus, the year after Zandré, my Brendan died as well, and there was no way at the time that I could foresee that. But yes, for the moment, I chose to focus on keeping going and keeping myself together for Brendan and for Kian, who was only little then. So now, I want to say to you, if you have lost a loved one and you are really hurting at the moment and you just need someone to talk to, leave me a comment, subscribe to this channel, or you can email me. I will be uploading quite a number of information sheets, worksheets, that you can utilize to deal and work through your grief and through pretty much a whole lot of other aspects of life on my website. You're welcome to visit it at www.angelas.com.au. oh sorry, www.angelhouseaustralia.com. www.angelhouseaustralia.com. For a moment there, I was thinking about my South African website. My apologies. But it will be exciting content, things you can actually use to make a difference, to get yourself back on the healing path, to keep yourself motivated, and to keep going. When you visit the website, simply log onto the shop, and then you'll see this video under the grief section or the grief category, and those items will be accessible and available to you there. So good luck with your journey. I know it's not easy, and I know it hurts like hell, and don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. And you're not supposed to be brave or try and be the superwoman or superman for anyone out there. You just be you, and take your time to deal with things and work through your pain. No one has walked in your shoes, and even if they have, your pain and your dealing with this journey will never ever be the same as the next person. So I wish you well, and thank you for listening to my story, and I hope to see you next week. Have a great Sunday. Bye.